Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I get a roll call, please? All supervisors are present. We'll move on to citizen comments. Do we have any citizen comments tonight? Citizen comments? Please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Lisa Dretsky. I live at 815 115th Street, Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin. I'm the new executive director of the Kemper Center. I just want to introduce myself. I'm really happy to hopefully get to know all of you. And I really would like, if any of you wanted a tour of the Kemper Center, I'd be happy to give it to you. Just give me a ring. I'd be happy to do it anytime. I also just wanted to let you know one of my big initiatives that I started up is putting together a report that kind of goes over all of the renovations that we're working on, past, present, and future. We're going to have documentation of it all, pictures, everything. Hopefully it'll just really clear up a lot of things, and hopefully we can start some great communication between the board and us at the Kemper Center. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other citizen comments? Seeing none, citizen comments are now closed. Announcements of the chair. I just want to let everyone know that because of the primary and the regular election, the February meeting, which was on the 21st, will now be moved to Wednesday, the 22nd. And the April 4th meeting will now be moved to April 5th, Wednesday. So February 21st is now going to be February 22nd, and April 4th will now be April 5th. Okay, that's all I have. We'll move on to supervisor reports. Supervisor Elverman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The Facilities Committee meeting this month started out all the new projects that the divisions will be working on. Golf division, one of their big things naturally is working on their equipment, getting that ready for the spring. We've got some renovations in both clubhouses being done, some counter work. And a big thing is the golf shows. February is the Chicago Golf Show that we do quite a presence at and get many contacts. And the Milwaukee Golf Show is in March. And those dates I don't have in front of me, but if anyone would like to attend, I asked Dan if they wanted any help. He said they've got everything covered, and he likes to have his proven staff there at those, but anybody that would like to sit along and be along at those would be welcomed. Facilities, we've got a few projects yet from last year that we're working on. The fire alarm system replacement should be done by the end of February. The public safety generator, the one that I talked about, the difficulty getting bids last year with all the natural disasters, anticipated completion in May. The public safety addition, the second floor renovation project, the due date for bids is February 14th on that. And the Branch Fort courtroom remodel should be done in spring. We are also looking at the list of roof projects that we are going to be working on. The next one is all the office area at the county center. We're trying to time that like we did last year and get those bids out before the schools get their bids out for roofing. We're in big competition with buildings like that. So those bids are due March 3rd. That's going to be another major project. Highways, naturally everyone's very aware of the highways this time of year. We had a very easy plowing season, a couple major storms, and we handled them quite well. But right now we've had our hands full with ice. salt. The highway, Sheriff's Department said we had 100 accidents last week on Monday, so people don't slow down quite as well as they do with snow, and we've been out. I know I gave myself extra time this evening because the main highways get a little shiny when it gets to be 32 degrees, and people have to keep their eyes open. We also have, naturally, the County S project, major highway project. The design work on that is ongoing. Fuel storage system for the Highway Department. The bid launch is before the end of this month. And in parks, we were presented with our new rates for this year. No increases in rates. The only new thing is a resident, non-resident fee for our 2 swimming beach parks. They added a non-resident fee for that. Unfortunately, our 4-H fishing derby at the Katy Park for 2 years in a row has been canceled. It was supposed to be this Saturday. Last week we drilled some holes, a lot of holes, checked the ice, everything was safe and good. And yesterday things started to really deteriorate, and today it was just maybe safe for adults, but it'd be a very wet mess and not safe for children. So we're going to have to cancel that. That was this Saturday. So that's a short rundown on our projects. The Parks also has recruited 3 college interns from UW Parkside and Carthage to work with the parks during the spring semester. They are specializing in videography, recreation, and marketing. And Matt said it's been just a blessing, the amount of work that those interns have been able to help him with. So we hope to continue that with our local universities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Overman. Supervisor Decker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairwoman Bruning. In addition to the items that are on the agenda for the evening, the Planning and Development and Extension Education meeting at our January 11th meeting also heard and approved a conditional use permit for Wisconsin Electric and Power Company, DBA We Energies, the owner, requested to amend a previously approved conditional use permit to install a main data facility building located in the town of Paris in the southeast corner of the intersection of Highway KR and 172nd Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Decker. Supervisor Boyd Frederick, you have the floor.
Yes, at the Legislative Committee meeting this evening, we had an election update from Chelsea Freebert from WCA, along with going over all of what's on their agenda for this upcoming legislative term with the state of Wisconsin. The next meeting, I will be absent along with Supervisor Hallman because the legislative conference for WCA happens to be the same date and time as our meeting, so we'll both be gone next week, or the next meeting.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Frederick. Supervisor Gentz, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a brief update on the public safety software for joint services. We were looking at a February date, but due to the manpower and woman power needs, it's very intensive to get the data conversion done. They're moving as fast as they can, but we don't want to have any snafus when we get flip the switch, so to speak, and go over to the new system. So we're looking at May as the go live date. I just wanted to let you know we as a board are not rushing that because the disaster for when you flip the switch, if it's not ready, will be very large. So as much as I'd like to report, hey, it's going to be done very quickly, we are progressing, and it's all hands on deck. All the departments are partaking and helping, and it's coming along. So I just wanted to give you that update. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Gentz. Seeing no other lights, we'll move on. County Clerk.
County Executive Appointments. Aaron Larkin to serve on the Kenosha County Commission on Aging and Disability Services.
Refer to Human Services.
Daniel Neurer to serve on the Kenosha County Commission of Aging and Disability Services.
Refer to Human Services.
Carol Schaffel to serve on the Kenosha County Commission on Aging and Disability Services.
Refer to Human Services.
Pam DeBeist to serve on the Kenosha County Commission on Aging and Disability Services.
Refer to Human Services.
Gary Preston to serve on the Kenosha County Commission on Aging and Disability Services.
Refer to Human Services.
Mark Midori to serve on the Kenosha County Board of Health.
Refer to Human Services.
Clement Abongwa to serve as the Director of the Kenosha County Division of Highways and Kenosha County Highway Commissioner. Old business, ordinance, second reading, 2 required. Number 31, from the Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, an ordinance proposed amendments regarding,
I think, wasn't there one of the resolutions for Clement? You didn't have anything for Clement? Because it went to the... It's what?
It's supposed to get referred. It's on there right now.
It was referred last meeting. Okay. All right, number 44 will be referred to Public Works.
okay. Ordinance number 31, from the Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, an ordinance proposed amendments regarding NR 115 and the statutory language reflected in 1999 Wisconsin Act 9, 2011 Wisconsin Act 170, 2015 Wisconsin Act 55, 2015 Wisconsin Act 167, and 2015 Wisconsin Act 391. Decker, aye. Poole, aye. Skalitsky, aye. Gilmore, excused. Bostrom, aye.
Supervisor Decker, you have the floor.
Move ordinance 31.
I have a first by Supervisor Decker and a second by Supervisor Poole. Supervisor Decker.
This ordinance would revise the Kenosha County General Zoning and Shoreland Floodplain Zoning Ordinance to change the language regarding the zoning of shorelands on navigable waters to assure compliance with the objectives of the regulatory provision of NR 115 and other Wisconsin acts as referenced in the authorizing ordinance. The Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee reviewed the text amendments at their meeting of November 9th, 2016, and recommends approval.
Thank you, Supervisor Decker. Seeing no lights, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Ordinance 32 from the Legislative Committee, an amendment of MCKC Chapter 2.05 Sub 4, Kenosha County Board Rules of Procedure relating to placing items on the county board agenda. Boyd Frederick, aye. Hallman, nay. Berg, aye. Decker, aye. Franco, aye. Poole, aye. Michael Skalitsky, excused.
Supervisor Boyd Frederick, you have the floor.
I move ordinance number 32.
I have a first by Supervisor Frederick and a second by Supervisor Berg. Supervisor Frederick.
Yes, this states out in writing for now when the items can be brought to the county board floor. When it comes to time sensitivity and to look at it, where if the chair would be able to make a determination if something had to be passed that evening or if it could be moved to the next meeting after something has been passed for meetings that meet on Monday and Tuesday mostly of that week, before the same week as the county board meeting.
Thank you, Supervisor Frederick. Seeing no lights, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next.
New business, ordinance first reading, 2 required. Ordinance 33 from the Finance and Administration Committee, an ordinance electing to proceed under Section 75.521 Wisconsin statutes in relation to the enforcement of collection of tax liens. Terry Rose, aye.
That's the first reading.
Oh,
I need a second. Okay, so I don't read them? Nope. Gotcha. Second, ready for me? 34?
Ordinance 34 from the Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, an ordinance regarding Lakeside Development Corporation and Glenda DuPont's owner requesting an amendment to the adopted land use plan map for Kenosha County 2035, map 65 of the comprehensive plan from high-density residential, medium-density residential, and PEC to medium-density residential and PEC, Town of Salem. Ordinance 35.
I thought you said don't read them. No, go ahead.
Good. From the Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, an ordinance regarding Lakeside Development Corporation and Glenda DuPont's owner requesting a rezoning from R11 Multiple Family Residential District, R3 Urban Single Family Residential District, A2 General Agricultural District, and C1 Lowland Resource Conservancy District to R3 Urban Single Family Residential District, C2 Upland Resource Conservancy District, and C1 Lowland Resource Conservancy District, Town of Salem.
Okay, we need to back up and do this one, because that's only one reading, so if you can just read it into...
34?
Yep, these are one readings,
Gotcha.
right? Jen, those are one readings, right? Yeah. So this one, number 34,
Yes.
if you can just,
Okay, we're going to go back to number 34 and
read into the record the vote from the committee.
Decker, aye. Poole, aye. Skalitsky, excused. Gilmore, aye. Bostrom, aye.
Supervisor Decker, you have the floor.
Move ordinance 34.
I have a first by Supervisor Decker and a second by Supervisor Gilmore. Supervisor Decker.
Thank you. This property is located on the west side of County Highway AH, 276th Avenue, approximately 400 feet south of the intersection with the Canadian National Railroad tracks. The comp plan amendment would allow a revision of map 65 of the comprehensive plan from high-density residential, medium-density residential, and PEC to medium-density residential and PEC. The Town of Salem recommended approval of the request.
Thank you, Supervisor Decker. Seeing no lights, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We will now, you finished reading 35, correct?
Do you want me to reread it?
No, just
Okay.
read into record the vote from the committee for number 35.
For ordinance 35, Decker, aye. Poole, aye. Skalitsky, excused. Gilmore, aye. Bostrom, aye.
Supervisor Decker, you have the floor.
Move ordinance 35.
I have a first by Supervisor Decker and a second by Supervisor Bostrom. Supervisor Decker.
Thank you. This property is located on the west side of County Highway AH, 276th Avenue, approximately 400 feet south of the intersection with the Canadian National Railroad tracks. The rezoning would allow for the property to be subdivided into 4 lots. The Town of Salem recommended approval of the request.
Thank you, Supervisor Decker. Seeing no lights, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Number 74.
Resolution, one reading, 74, from the Finance and Administration Committee, a resolution to appoint Ellen Kupfer to the Kenosha County Library System Board. Terry Rose, aye. Ronald Frederick, excused. Jeffrey Gentz, aye. Dodge, aye. Kubicki, excused. Esposito, aye. Retzloff, aye.
Supervisor Rose, you have the floor.
All right, thank you, and I would move the resolution.
I have a first by Supervisor Rose and a second by Supervisor Gentz. Supervisor Rose.
This appointment is a reappointment. Ms. Kupfer has attended 15 of the last 17 meetings. She's been active in the community, having served and is serving on the Kenosha Public Library Board. Her occupation is listed as Director of Christian Education at the First United Methodist Church in Kenosha. The committee reviewed the appointment and urges your approval.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Seeing no lights, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Resolution 75, from the Finance and Administration Committee, a resolution to appoint Supervisor Dennis Elverman to the Kenosha County Library. Terry Rose, aye. Ronald Frederick, excused. Jeffrey Gentz, aye. Rick Dodge, aye. Kubicki, excused. Esposito, aye. Retzloff, aye.
Supervisor Rose, you have the floor.
I would move the resolution.
I have a first by Supervisor Rose and a second by Supervisor Retzloff. Supervisor Rose.
I think all of us know Dennis Elverman. He served on this board for many years. He owns his own business, formerly also a trustee in Twin Lakes. We have reviewed the appointment and unanimously approved it.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Seeing no lights, all those in favor? Roll call has been requested. Motion passes.
Resolution 76 from the Finance and Administration Committee, a resolution to appoint Nancy Kemp to the Kenosha County Library System Board. Terry Rose, aye. Ronald Frederick, excused. Jeffrey Gantz, aye. Rick Dodge, aye. Kubicki, excused. Daniel Esposito, aye. Retzloff, aye.
Supervisor Rose, you have the floor.
I would move the resolution on behalf of the committee.
I have a first by Supervisor Rose and a second by Supervisor Dodge. Supervisor Rose.
Thank you. Committee has reviewed Ms. Kemp's appointment and urge your approval. She has served on the Randall Plan Commission, the Community Library Board as a trustee, and is currently a pharmacy technician. We urge your approval.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Seeing no lights, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Resolution 77 from the Judiciary and Law Enforcement Committee, a resolution for cabaret license, Shadow Hill Ranch doing business as Country Thunder Music Festival. Blau, excused. Supervisor Boyd Frederick, aye. Retzloff, aye. Skalitsky, aye. Wamble, aye.
Supervisor Boyd Frederick, you have the floor.
Yes, this is the probationary cabaret license for,
Would you like to move it?
yes, I'm sorry. I like to move number 77, please.
Thank you, Supervisor Frederick. I have a first and a second by Supervisor Retzloff. Supervisor Boyd Frederick.
Thank you. This is actually quite early. It's from Country Thunder, and they're requesting for their probationary cabaret license already. It seems it's 6 months earlier than last year. So I seek your approval.
Thank you, Supervisor Boyd Frederick. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Resolution 78 from the Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee, a resolution regarding Lakeside Development Corporation and Glenda DuPont's owner, requesting an amendment to the adopted land use plan for Kenosha County, 2035, map 65 of the comprehensive plan from high-density residential, medium-density residential, and PEC to medium-density residential and PEC, Town of Salem. Decker, aye. Poole, aye. Skalitsky, excused. Gilmore, aye. Bostrom, aye.
Supervisor Decker, you have the floor.
Move Resolution 78.
I have a first by Supervisor Decker and a second by Supervisor Gilmore. Supervisor Decker.
Thank you. This property is located on the west side of County Highway AH 276th Avenue, approximately 400 feet south of the intersection with the Canadian National Railroad tracks. The state requires a resolution from the Planning and Development and Extension Education Committee and an ordinance from the full county board to amend the comprehensive plan. This resolution would allow an amendment to the Kenosha County Comprehensive Plan for a change from high-density residential, medium-density residential, and PEC to medium-density residential and PEC. The Town of Salem recommended approval of the request.
Thank you, Supervisor Decker. Seeing no lights, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Resolution 79 from the Public Works and Facilities and Finance and Administration Committees, a resolution regarding We Energy's permanent easement request for Brookside Care Center. Dennis Elverman, aye. O'Day, aye. Gilmore, aye. Wamble, aye. Bostrom, aye. Franco, aye.
And then I think you have the finance one after that. This is from both.
Oh, yeah. Terry Rose, aye. Esposito, aye. Dodge, aye. Jeff Gantz, aye. Greg Retzloff, aye.
Supervisor Elverman, you have the floor.
I move Resolution 79.
I have a first by Supervisor Elverman and a second by Supervisor Rose. Supervisor Elverman.
This is part of our construction project at the Brookside Care Center. A new electric service had to be run and installed, new lines, and We Energies requires an easement for that, so we are asking for your positive votes on this easement. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Elverman. Seeing no lights, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 80 from Public Works and Facilities and Finance and Administration Committees, a resolution regarding Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources recreational boating. Elverman, aye. O'Day, aye. Gilmore, aye. Wamble, aye. Bostrom, aye. Franco, aye. And Terry Rose, aye. Frederick, excused. Gentz, aye. Kubicki, excused. Greg Retzloff, aye. Esposito, aye. Dodge, aye.
Supervisor Elverman, you have the floor.
I move Resolution 80.
I have a first by Supervisor Elverman and a second by Supervisor Gens. Supervisor Elverman.
Thank you. Resolution 80 is a request by the committee for your permission to apply for a recreational boating facilities grant. In order to apply for this, we need this resolution by the county board. We have long-term plans, and have had long-term plans, to allow our dive teams to practice life rescue events there. We have plans for a multi-use pier with for handicapped, and this grant is something new that we've never applied for. It was suggested by our contacts with the DNR, and I ask for your approval.
Thank you, Supervisor Elverman. Seeing no lights, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Resolution 81 from the Public Works and Facilities and Finance and Administration Committees, a resolution regarding the 2017 Migratory Bird Day Proclamation. Elverman, I. Grady, I. O'Day, I. Gilmore, I. Steve Bostrom, I. Franco, I. Terry Rose, I. Frederick,
What do you think about
excused. Gens, I. Kubicki, excused. Retzloff, I. Esposito, I. Dodge, I.
Supervisor Elverman, you have the floor.
I move Resolution 81.
I have a first by Supervisor Elverman and a second by Vice Chair Esposito. Supervisor Elverman.
I hope everyone read this resolution because it says it all. I can't add anything to this. It's a quality of life issue. We have become a bird city and county, and we will have a celebration of this September 16th, I believe, this year. So I ask for your approval.
Thank you, Supervisor Elverman. Seeing no lights, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
How was that?
Resolution 82 from the Public Works and Facilities and Finance and Administration Committees, a resolution to accept grant funding for Kenosha County Parks Reforestation Program. Elverman, I. Grady, I. O'Day, I. Gilmore, I. Bostrom, I. Franco, I. Terry Rose, I. Ronald Frederick, excused. Gens, I. Kubicki, excused. Retzloff, I. Esposito, I. Dodge, I.
Supervisor Elverman, you have the floor.
Move Resolution 82.
I have a first by Supervisor Elverman and a second by Supervisor Dodge. Supervisor Elverman.
This is part of the ongoing saga of the emerald ash borer. We reported for the last couple years, and this is for the reforestation of Petrifying Springs Park. This will, with using our labor and with seasonal personnel, cover the total cost for Petrifying Springs reforestation as we have planned, and I ask for your approval.
Thank you, Supervisor Elverman. Supervisor Retzloff, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question. It requires us to hire one full-time employee to oversee the planting and maintenance of these trees. Why can't we do that with the existing people we have? It's only for, it says for 40 hours, 24 weeks. How difficult is that to plant trees? And can't someone that's already worked for the Parks Department do this? That was my question.
Well, I guess you asked the right guy. I've planted trees for 43 years, and it's difficult. You do need labor, and the Parks Department does have its regular duties to perform. So this is going to be a seasonal employee, and it will be, it's additional work. It's quite a bit of additional work.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Supervisor Retzloff. Seeing no other lights, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Resolution 83 from the Public Works and Facilities and Finance and Administration Committees, a resolution regarding We Energy's permanent easement request within Petrifying Springs Park. Elverman, I. Grady, I. O'Day, I. Gilmore, I. Bostrom, I. Franco, I. Terry Rose, I. Ronald Frederick, excused. Gens, I. Kubicki, excused. Retzloff, I. Esposito, I. Dodge, I.
Supervisor Elverman, you have the floor.
I move Resolution 83.
I have a first by Supervisor Alverman and a second by Supervisor Retzloff. Supervisor Alverman.
This is another We Energies easement. This is for power that we do not have, or did not have, at an existing pavilion. Allows us to lease these pavilions, gain a fee for use of power, and gives us more lighting options there. So all this one is doing is giving We Energies permission for the easement.
Thank you, Supervisor Alverman. Seeing no other lights, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
I recall us reading ordinance number 33, 34, and 35, and then voting on number 34 and 35, but I don't recall a vote on number 33. What was the reason for that?
Two required. And that was the
Okay,
first
thank you.
reading.
Communications from Andy M. Bueller regarding future items scheduled before the Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee.
Receive and file.
Claims, number 21, Shanaz Chima, vehicle damage,
Refer to Corporation Council.
and approval of the January 3rd, 2017 minutes by Supervisor Kubicki.
Supervisor Kubicki, you have the floor.
I move for the approval of January 3rd, 2007 minutes as presented.
I have a first by Supervisor Kubicki and a second by Supervisor Rose. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Motion to adjourn.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. I have a motion to adjourn by Supervisor Kubicki and a second by Supervisor Gable. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We are adjourned.